So if you're watching this video, my guess is you're not overly thrilled with your current job anymore, and you're thinking about becoming an airline pilot. And when you're thinking a question like that, one of the very first things that you might ask is, well, how much does an airline pilot make? The good news is that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this very video. So stick with me and let's dive into it. All right, so in just a minute, we're going to dive in and look at the pay tables for both Delta Airlines, which is one of the majors, and for SkyWest Airlines, which is the largest of the regionals. But before we do that, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the factors that go into determining a pilot's pay, because it is more than just their hourly rate. So factor number one, by far, is your seniority with the airline. This is particularly applicable in Part 121, which is airlines, versus, say, Part 135, which is charter companies. We're not going to talk about charter companies in this particular video because this one is about airline pilot pay. The short answer is airline pilots over the long haul make significantly more than charter pilots do, but there's a whole bunch of differences that are beyond the scope of this video. So seniority is number one. The longer that you have been with the airline, the more money that you are going to make per hour, and therefore the more money you are going to make per year. So when you're working for an airline, probably the biggest factor that's going to determine your pay is whether or not you are going to work for a regional airline or you're going to work for a major airline. Now, most of the younger kids, when they start their career early on, they're going to start at a regional, and then as fast as possible, they're going to take that upgrade or switch over to a major airline, because major airlines do pay more money, as you're going to see a little later on when we dive into those pay tables. But the thing that you have to take into account is you may be able to get, if you're a little older in life, like yours truly, you may actually want to stay at a regional airline because there are quality of life benefits that might be more important to you than earning that very last dollar. Obviously, those are very personal decisions. I just wanted to shine a light on it to get you thinking about it. Now, once you choose whether you're going to work at a regional or you're going to work at a major, then the other thing that will affect your pay is the type of aircraft that you're going to fly and the routes that you choose. The short answer is wide body captains make the most because they're flying over the pond and they're flying the biggest iron. Bigger plane, bigger pay. On the other hand, if you decide that you don't like something about that schedule and you decide, well, hey, no, I don't want to do that, then you're going to make a little bit less money. The other thing too is captain versus first officer, and you're going to see that when we dive into the pay tables. Now, over and above the hourly rate, there are a couple of other factors which can have a significant impact on your income. Number one is profit sharing. So profit sharing can result in a pay bump of somewhere in the order of 10 to 15% of your salary. That obviously depends upon the airline. It depends upon the contract that they have with the union. It depends upon how profitable they were in a given year. So it's really hard to tell you exactly how much profit sharing is going to be. Then also another thing that you're going to get is a per diem. So that's every day that you are away from your base, you get a certain amount per hour for every hour that you're away. Now, it's not a huge amount per hour, but if you spend a lot of time away from your base, it can add up and add up over time. And then finally, there's the airline's contribution to your retirement plan. Oftentimes, those can be extremely generous, and that can make a significant difference to your overall pay. And then another factor that can influence your pay is your geographic location and your base selection. These are going to influence your pay due to cost of living differences and opportunities for tax optimization. So with that all said, now let's dive into some more specifics by looking at the actual pay tables we're going to start with Delta Airlines. So let's start off with the 2026 pay scale for captains. What you can see on the screen here now is the table. We've got way over on the right in this column here is for a first year captain, headed with the heading number 1. And then if we go over to the left, we can make it all the way to a 12-year captain. In the very left column, you can see the airframes. At the very top, we've got a Boeing 777, and at the very bottom, we've got the fairly small Embraer 190 or a CJR 900. So let's go from the bottom right-hand corner. You can see here that a first-year captain in the smallest plane is going to earn about $229 per hour. Roughly speaking, that's going to equate to approximately $230,000 a year. Then way over here on the left, you've got a senior captain in the wide-body Boeing 777 making $483.74 per hour, which is going to equate roughly to $500,000 per year, subject to a variety of the things I'm going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. Now looking at first officers, same thing. You've got a first-year first officer. No matter what airframe you're in, you're going to make about $125 per hour at Delta. And then as you progress and become a senior first officer, now I don't know that a first officer could ever get to 12 years without getting upgraded to captain, but a senior captain, if they so chose, could downgrade to be a first officer for whatever particular personal reasons they would like. Nonetheless, you can see in those same airframes that the first officer at 12 years is going to be earning about $330 per hour, which is going to be roughly $330,000 per year. So here you can see that the pay is awfully generous, but this is just the hourly rate. Remember earlier I talked about there are other ways to add your pay. Let's have a look at those. The first thing to talk about is profit sharing. So here you can see that pre-COVID share in paid in 2019 was 16.6%, in 2018 it was 14%, and 2017 it was 15%. The post-COVID profit share paid in 2024 was 10.4%, and in 2023 it was 5.6%. In addition to profit sharing, you have per diem. So in 2024, the per diem for domestic was $2.85 per hour, and for international, it was $3.30 per hour. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier in the video, we talk about the retirements. You've got the 401k. So the direct contribution is 17%. That's going up to 18% beginning January 1st of 2026. And the company is matching your 401k contributions. So as you might imagine, that can add up to a significant amount of money. Now, the other thing that's not spelled out in the pay tables that we just looked at is what I'll call, I don't know what the technical term for it is, but my buddy is actually a captain with a major airline, and he goes and he bids on trips on a pretty regular basis that are paying time and a half or double time, or sometimes even triple time of the base hourly rate. Now, I imagine that airlines are doing this because they need a pilot, or they need a flight crew team at the last minute, or maybe there's something that's undesirable about the trip. So the more senior you are, and he's fairly senior, you can then bid on these trips. And so he's had trips where instead of making, $330 an hour, he's making almost $1,000 an hour. So over a 3 or 4 day trip, he'll make thousands and thousands of dollars. And if you're doing that on an ongoing basis, as you might imagine, you can significantly increase your annual income. So in cases like that, instead of, when the hourly rate is say 480, and I'm saying, well, on average, you're going to earn about $500,000 per year, some more senior smart pilots who are really maximizing the way they're bidding on their schedule might be able to bump their pay up to $600,000 or $700,000 per year, which is absolutely incredible, because there's not too many occupations in the world that pay that much money for a job that, compared to your typical executive job, has some seriously good perks. Perk number one is you're only allowed to fly up to about 80 hours per month, whereas a regular person, you're expected to work at least 160 hours per month. Perk number two is when you arrive at the gate and you turn the plane off, you're done. There's nothing else they can call you about. You're finished work. There's literally nothing else to think about. Whereas you take a senior executive at nameyourbigcompany.com or whatever, and they're thinking about their job all the time. They're never getting a break from it. So those are two really significant perks. And then one of the other really cool things, of course, when you work for an airline is all that free travel, which oftentimes you're not going to get that at a regular executive job either. So when you look at it as a whole, I happen to think that becoming an airline pilot is one of the very smartest moves that you can make, assuming, of course, that you want to be up in the friendly skies operating a large and complex piece of machinery. Now let's dive in and look at SkyWest's pay tables. So now on your screen, you have the captain and the first officer pay tables. And SkyWest doesn't break it down by airplane, it's all fleets. And that's simply because SkyWest really doesn't operate too many different airframes. They're predominantly flying the Embraer 175 and then a couple of different models of the CRJ. So as a brand new first officer, just hired, and this could be your very first airline job. In fact, that was the case for me. I went from being a flight instructor to getting hired as a first officer. So your base rate is $91.81 per hour in your first year, and then you can see that it keeps climbing up. Now, at a regional airline, it's very unlikely you're going to make it past about, at least in the current environment, that you're going to make it past about year 2 or year 3 as a first officer. Then you're going to be upgraded to captain. And the reason for that is as the majors are experiencing attrition due to retirements and also expansion due to travel demand, the place that they most often are hiring their new first officers from is they're hiring captains at regional airlines. And so that creates a vacuum at the regionals so that the regionals have a large need to train their first officers, once you've got the required amount of hours, to have you become captains to fill that void that is being caused by the majors. So in the case of SkyWest, captain pay in the first year is about $142, call it $143, all the way up to $220. But here's the thing that's interesting. So I said earlier, and this paints the picture of how all of the extra stuff factors into your annual pay. Again, I've got a good buddy who's a senior captain at SkyWest, and he makes about $290,000 per year. So how do you make $290,000 per year when you can only fly a maximum of 1,000 hours per year? So 220 times 1,000 would be 220,000. Well, these are all the extra things that I'm talking about. So the per diems, for example, at SkyWest are $2.25 per hour. They've also got 401k matching, 4% company match for 1 to 4 years of service, a 6% company match for 5 to 9 years of service, and then a 12% non-elective direct contribution at 10 or more years of service, and also they are matching. The other thing, as I mentioned to a little earlier in this video, is that as your seniority increases, you will have the opportunity to bid on those trips that are paying higher than the normal hourly rate. And when you're doing that on a regular basis, it can definitely add a lot more money to your annual income overall. So now that you've seen how much today's airline pilots are earning, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I become an airline pilot? What's the first step? The good news is that here on the Fly with Trent channel, we have quite a number of videos to show you how to go from where you are today all the way to becoming an airline pilot, which is exactly what I did between 2023 and 2025. And I did it in record time, which is one of the things that makes my channel so popular. So of the many videos that we've got, I highly recommend, there's 2 videos on the screen now, and I highly recommend that you watch one or both of them because they will give you a much clearer idea of how to get the ball rolling so that you too can become an airline pilot. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Trent. It's been a pleasure to spend this time with you. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to get email notifications of further videos as well as some of my other free resources, just visit flywithtrent.com and become an email subscriber. Or you can also just become a subscriber here on YouTube if you want to make sure that you get notifications of future videos from me. Thanks very much. Have a great day. We'll see you in another video soon. Take care. Bye-bye.